Welcome to the Modcast. I am your podcast host, Mod Thorn, or the Eevee Reader, or Clover, or whatever the heck you call it. Happy Halloween. This year I was going to dress up as Catherine Hall, but it's now the 15th and I have abandoned that. I am here with my co-hosts.
Hello.
I'm Chief Mod Edgeworth, and I do intend on Halloween to dress up as Kazuma Asogi in his prosecutor outfit because it's so badass.
Neat.
Pretty good costume.
And I'm Co-Mod or Mod Renosuke or I'm Nobody You Know. And I have given zero amount of thought to who I'm going to dress up as, but I'll get back to you on that.
See, I have two options, and it's either going to be Catherine Hall or Devon Attendee. Either way, I'm dressing up in a hell of a lot of green.
I vote for Catherine.
Catherine is great.
You dress up in a lot of green. I'm going to likely be dressed up in a lot of white.
Yeah. So, it is October, and it is the spooky season, and I decided that we should talk about what makes a good Ace Attorney villain, because there are a lot of them. I don't think we're going to talk about all of them, because that would imply we're talking about Frank and Red White and Vasquez, and I'm trying to remember all the bad guys, and I don't know all of them.
And
I was gonna say, we're also gonna include, that would also include the side villains that we probably don't even remember the names of.
Yeah.
And some characters you could maybe call villains, maybe not, depending on context.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Some are just bad, regular characters, I guess.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. I think, and speaking of which, I think, we're just gonna talk about, villains that are obviously villains, not ones that are, one of those, maybe rivals or antagonists. We're talking villains, characters that are evil, not just characters that might be the Flash Thompsons or something.
Not a character who did a bad but is not bad. Like a certain acrobat who did it for his bad acro.
That was funny.
Thank you.
Yeah, it was.
Thank you. I try sometimes. So I don't know if we're gonna do all. I don't know all of them by heart. Let me see if I can remember them all. There's Manfred von Karma and Damon Gant. There's Matt Engard, Dahlia, Christoph, the Phantom Garan. There's Strongheart, and I would say we can also include Magnus von Gilded, or whatever the fuck his name was, and the bad guys from Ace Attorney Investigations, Callisto and Simon. Which is part of why I started with Simon's music, because holy shit, his music is amazing.
Yeah, man. We're not going to include Alba.
Were there any villains in the Professor Layton crossover?
Technically,
no.
Yes and no. Just
it's kind
people
of
with bad motivations more than evil people.
Yeah,
they weren't exactly evil so much as they were just They did evil things with good intentions.
They are. I would say they're not villains. They're antagonists. That's a fucking nerd. How about you put a nerd emoji over my head? Because Jesus, that was such a nerdy thing to say.
Yeah, I did. We learned something today.
As a writer, I think it's very important to distinctualize that, because a villain is someone who is doing bad things for whatever reason they may have, whereas an antagonist is going against what the protagonist is trying to do.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So Acro, for example, is an antagonist because he's not a bad person. Well, he is, because he tried to murder a 17-year-old, but semantics. Yeah. The point is that he's not a villain because he's not doing it out of malicious intent. He's an antagonist because he's doing it for a reason he thinks is valid, even though he knows it's wrong.
Yeah, if it's a character that's kind of they're doing bad things, again, the Flash Thompson thing where, he picks on Peter Parker because his father was very abusive. It's no, that's not a villain, that's just a bully.
I don't even remember. Who the frick are you talking about when you say Flash Thompson?
Yeah, Flash Thompson is have
Oh,
you ever
that
read
guy, that guy, that guy,
Spider-Man?
that guy. Yeah, I know. Okay.
Yes,
I had
yes,
to look
yes.
him up, but yeah, I know this guy.
Yes, yes. The
Oh.
duck that picks on little Peter Parker at school. That's Flash Thompson.
So,
Mm-hmm.
if I might posit what a good Ace Attorney villain is, I apologize for bringing my namesake into this not even 10 minutes into the podcast, but what I think the most important thing about an Ace Attorney villain and story in general is the stakes don't have to be actually high, but they have to feel higher than they are. And the best example of this is Dahlia Hawthorne.
Oh, yeah,
Oh,
Hawthorne.
absolutely. Oh,
So,
absolutely.
the reason why I say that is because the original trilogy really excelled when it came to villainy. Because the first game had Gant and Von Karma, where if you beat them, if you don't beat them, the legal system is fucked. The second game had
Yeah.
Matt Engard, where if you don't find a way to beat him, someone goes to prison and you lose sight of what law is. But the third game,
Yeah.
I would argue, has absolutely no consequence whether or not you beat Dahlia, because
Yeah.
Maya is still alive, and there's no bringing
Yeah.
back Misty. And Gatto just gets away with it. That's pretty much
Pretty
it.
much. Man, we still
Yeah.
know.
And not I mean there are stakes, but it's like there are personal stakes.
Exactly.
Right.
Aside
And
from the
that-
personal interconnection that Dahlia would be fucking up with Phoenix and Maya and all of that, aside from the very personal shit, there is nothing in the world that is going to change if Dahlia wins. And I think that is why I love her so much, because the stakes feel like they've never been higher when in fact they have never been lower.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a personal thing between her and PFA.
Exactly.
And that's it. That's her only motivation. That's why you love her, and that's why I can't stand her. Go ahead.
Yeah, for me, I think you both know this, but my favorite villain is Manfred von Karma. Now how he rises the stakes is much different than Dahlia, because while he might not have anything personal with Phoenix Wright, he does have something personal with Miles Edgeworth. And during the first game, Miles Edgeworth and Phoenix Wright had a much more personal a more personal rivalry, and a personal like antagonist versus protagonist. Like during the first game, like, you know, Manfred von Karma wasn't the main antagonist at all. It was Miles Edgeworth, and you don't exactly understand why until the end. And I think this is a very clever storytelling tactic where the best friend or the childhood friend is the antagonist, because he's not acting like himself. He is going through a crossroad in his life. He's going through some bad grieving trauma, and the best friend has to go and save his best friend from himself, making the best friend the antagonist. And then you have Manfred von Karma, who is the villain and the catalyst for why Edgeworth is going through this trauma. And
I
it's
absolutely
something
agree.
and it's not something personal to Phoenix Wright, but it is personal to the very person he's trying to save, the person he's been trying to save since the beginning of the game. The very reason why he became a defense attorney in the first place. And what makes this. And I love Manfred von Karma as a villain, because he isn't just like one of those villains that you're supposed to sympathize with. He is the type of villain that obviously you're supposed to hate, even
Much
from
like,
the
much like
beginning.
his daughter, you're supposed to hate him with a passion.
Now the reason I can relate to him are for very completely different reasons, and not something that anybody is ever going to relate to unless they've been diagnosed with
NPD.
narcissistic personality disorder.
See, okay, so I do love what you've described, because what it is Edgeworth starts the game as a villain diagnosed as the demon prosecutor. He gets a guilty verdict no matter what, and has been like that for the 4 years. And then as you play the game, you are watching as this villain just goes from being the villain to the antagonist, as the actual villain is behind everything, and you don't meet him until the technical end of the game. And you find out, oh, so he's the reason why Edgeworth, despite being awesome in elementary school, turned out to be a huge bitch.
Yeah,
I wanted to say one thing. You're talking about it's how Von Karma doesn't have any personal connection to Phoenix. He does to Edgeworth, and that's kind of by extension.
That's kind of the point.
That's the other thing I love about
an extended connection.
That's what I love about villains in Ace Attorney 2. And this isn't just for them. The reason why I like them is because you're fighting them because that's your job rather than revenge or anything.
Yeah.
If you do get revenge, it's just a nice addition.
It's icing on the cake, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And something about like Miles Edgeworth and what they did to set that up to make you think he's the villain at first is that the first game is actually the only Ace Attorney game where, I mean, I don't know why they did this, but how they did it was actually very clever to the game's credit, to the game developers. But in the first game of Ace Attorney, it's the only game where you could actually choose what Phoenix reacts or says to other characters. And I remember when I was replaying the Turnabout Sisters, because I've replayed it at least 3 times already.
Fair.
And
only 3?
There is a choice where you're talking to Gumshoe, and Gumshoe is asking you, do you know who Edgeworth is? And you can choose either to say, yes, I do, or, say you don't. And if you say you don't, then Gumshoe gets very angry and says, what do you mean you don't know who he is? And then Phoenix is just silent, and then he says to himself, of course I know who he is. Basically giving the indication that he was just being a bitch.
He's just being an ass.
And then you find out in the end, after finding out their backstory, why. And and especially with why Gumshoe would be angry at Phoenix for that, because if he knows that Phoenix and Edgeworth do have a history together, then that's basically the equivalent of your childhood friend pretending that their childhood friend doesn't exist.
I would posit that Gumshoe is more talking about demon prosecutor status, because it is implied that Edgeworth is trying to say he doesn't know Phoenix. So...
But we also know that
Edgeworth's being a huge tsundere, a fucking emotional cactus. So
yeah, but Gumshoe knows more about Edgeworth than Edgeworth knows about himself. So
that is true. That is why I ship them.
Sorry, got me off guard there.
Go ahead.
What were we talking about?
We were talking about villains.
So
I fell asleep there. Sorry.
It's fine. I love Von Karma, but I do feel really bad for the other villain in that game, which is Gant.
Yeah?
Because Gant...
Why is that?
Yeah.
Because Gant is a freaking awesome villain who was put in the worst place. Here's the thing. Rise from the Ashes as a case sucks. It's long, it's boring, it adds a lot of new mechanics that we didn't want in the final case of the game, and a lot of weird stuff that you have to now figure out because it's gonna be in the 4th game, and we only made Rise from the Ashes so that the 4th game feels less jarring, except it's still good because of the fucking Mason system. Anyways, that case sucks, and a lot of the characters in it are weird and bad, and I don't, like friggin' what's her name, Angel Star and the Texan,
Angel Star,
Jake
Marshall and them. But the one character who I felt like a good ass villain character was Gant. He knew everything. Lana was under the implication that Emma was a murderer, and that's why she was doing everything, whereas Gant always knew, I killed him, but as long as Lana doesn't know that, she's under my fucking thumb. And I love that he was really a puppet master the whole time, and I just think that that's so freaking cool. And it's
I just realized.
wasting
I just
him on
realized how
such
much that. Go ahead.
No, go ahead. I was just gonna say, like, I think
I just realized. Sorry.
we're all talking.
No, you
over
go.
him.
You go.
You go first. You go first.
I was gonna say, I think he was wasted on such a case because everyone either tries to forget it or outright says, "No, I hated Rise from the Ashes," and it sucks because I think Gant was great. Anyways, go ahead.
Me too. I was gonna say, I just realized how much it reminds me of The Lion King. How Simba thought he killed his father.
Oh yeah,
exactly. Oh,
By accident, but that whole thing was a ruse. The whole thing was a lie.
It also adds to the whole thing with Miles, because the whole game, the whole first game, let's just face it, it's not about Phoenix, it's about Edgeworth.
Yeah.
Gant really does hammer home the fact that Edgeworth did shitty things and there's nothing he can do to take it back, because he straight up says, yeah, you used forged evidence and I made you do that.
Well, whose fault is that?
And another thing about Gant that I liked is that, like, how he even, like, the reason for how he even becomes a villain or why he does villainy things is to cover up what he, that he basically was the one who killed Neil Marshall, which, I mean, if you were to actually look through how he did, it does seem like it could have been that he mistaken Neil Marshall for Joe Dark. Because that was the whole point of it, was that he made a mistake, because Emma Skye also made the same mistake. So obviously, if the guy saw her going after him and trying to push him, and then he must have made that same mistake, and only to realize, well, crap.
Yeah. That's a possibility, except I remember he cut a piece of cloth from Neil's.
Yeah, but that
outfit.
was after he killed him. Remember?
But now, there was no blood on it. So how is that possible? I thought he cut it off, then stabbed it, then impaled him.
No, I think he cut it off after he impaled the guy.
Okay, well, he was bleeding from the mouth, so I'm just wondering how he did. It must have done it real quick in that case. But that's whatever.
I mean, I don't know. I just believe that first he killed the guy, and then he basically cut the piece of cloth so that he could put the blame on Emma, because it seemed like that he planned on like putting it on Emma after the fact, and considering how dark it was in the room to where even Emma couldn't tell the difference between Joe Dark and the other guy, I assume the same thing applies to but that's what I like about it, is that like he wasn't even attempting to kill Neil Marshall. Like, there was no reason for him to. That would actually be stupid of him to do that. It was the fact it was an accident, and yet he was willing to solve it in very villainous ways.
To be fair, he had a reason. It was just a shitty reason. His reason was, if I get the dude to look like he murdered Neil, then I'll have enough evidence to prove that he murdered him, and we'll be able to put him away.
Yeah. Speaking of Dark, I remember. I think it's Phoenix who says lies beget more lies. Yep. And that's basically how Damon Gant became a villain. He's trying to be a good police officer and the police chief, but he gains power, and then something happens. He sees an opportunity. Oh, I could kill two birds with one stone. I could get rid of this serial killer and gain some power and influence.
Kill two birds with one stone, somewhat literally.
Yep, and then that he had to keep lying to cover that up, and then eventually the lies got to be too numerous for him to hide. And in that sense, he's not all that different from Joe Dark, who killed one person by accident, and then killed a witness to that person, and so on. So I just noticed that's an interesting parallel between them.
By the way, why Joe Dark actually killed that person?
The first one was an accident, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think it was an accident at first, and then as more witnesses started coming, like, he started killing each of them because he didn't want to go to prison or something.
Yeah, he's
That
afraid or
reminds me of an
something.
old Smosh skit.
Yeah, and I think that this is based off of Japanese law and order, because if it were applied to the United States, then you
It'd
would
be
be thinking,
manslaughter.
well, that would be crazy. But if you applied that to Japan, then it's
Uh-huh.
like, well, then he was just afraid of other witnesses, because in Japan, if someone notices it and calls the police, then you're pretty much fucked.
Yep.
Yeah. As in,
As
What else
in,
I
like,
thought of?
I don't
you're
wanna
going to go to prison. Like,
Okay.
there's no question about it. Like, that's what I mean. Like,
Okay.
they'll arrest you. Like, they'll brutally interrogate you. They'll do the whole 9 yards.
Yep, we learned that with what's his face in Ace Attorney 2.
Yes,
Investigations too.
based off of the Japanese police.
But I think that Gant was a super meticulously well-made villain, and it sucks that he was overshadowed by such an awful case. Mm-hmm. Especially because the villain immediately after him is another great villain for a wrong reason, and that's fucking Matt.
Richard. Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, Matt Engar?
Matt Engar is...
I don't know why I thought it was Richard Wellington. Sorry.
I mean, he does suck, but for other reasons. Yet again, we have the same thing where it's like everyone kind of shrugs off Justice for All because it's Justice for All, and it's kind of mid. But I don't know a single person who, when I say the name Justice for All, they don't think of either Matt Engar or Max Galactica.
Oh, boy.
Shout out to my cousin.
Yeah.
Who's obsessed with Max. Anyways,
well, he is fabulous.
He is beautiful.
Yeah. Fabulous.
But I disliked... I dislike when people say that everything in Justice for All was bad, because I think Matt is the example of a pure evil villain, which can be so fun.
Yeah, he's he commits a murder just to, or has a killer commit a murder just to cover his reputation,
and
to hide his bad marriage issues, you could say.
He basically killed guy, Kurita, just so that he could get rid of his competition. That was pretty much it.
Yeah, well, and Juan was gonna pretend to be him and confess to a bunch of stuff. And he didn't want that.
And funny enough, like I remember a period of time in the Ask Ace Attorney blog when like people were writing letters about Cordia like basically kidnapping his Catchu and holding it against Matt Engar.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, not much you wouldn't do for a cat. I just something I want to mention about On Guard. It's not very often you hear the villains share their philosophies, their selfish, corrupt philosophies, like people are just tools to be used, then disposed of. And I don't care what happens to them. That he comes out and says that when he shows his true colors. He's like,
I saw a lot of people pointing out that makes no sense logistically for him to do that.
Yeah, well, the only one hearing him is Phoenix and Pearl.
Well, no, because he does that in court too.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's true.
Him doing it in court made no sense because he basically outed, like, yeah, I'm a murderer and I'm about to get away with it. It's like, dude, you're about to ruin your life now.
Yeah.
And I heard that it was much worse in the animated series.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, boy.
It because like at least they tried to make him subtle in the game, but I mean it was done terribly, but they at least tried to in the animated series. Like you see him like the scar and everything, and it's like why don't you just give him a guilty verdict and just call it a day?
It's like the anime made it so much harder because they made him so much more vain in his disguised form. I was like, dude, you're guilty. Go home.
Yeah. Yeah, go back to going like, dude. Whatever, dude.
But I love pure evil villains like that who have nothing but their own vanity. They just are evil for the sake of being evil, and I love it.
Or just because it pays.
Yeah,
He's a rich, famous guy.
Like villains like that are just evil for the sake of being evil. Like, I like it when they're done well. They actually enjoy being villains. I miss those from like my childhood, like the Maleficents or the Mother Terrain from Cinderella.
Yeah. Well, I always wondered why she's so mean to Cinderella. Then I realized, oh yeah, she's got stepdaughters. If they were to marry the prince, they'd become rich.
Exactly.
Yeah, they become
just kind
very
of have a motive.
rich.
I thought you were just being a jerk.
The pure evil Disney villains are awesome, and that's why I love Matt, because he's just unapologetically dickish.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah,
he looks like an evil James Bond with the drink he's holding. We don't even know what that is, but people on Ask Ace Eternity think it's chocolate milk, but I don't know what it is.
I think it was supposed to be wine in the Japanese version, and then they changed it to chocolate milk.
I just guessed. I don't know what it is.
That's what I always assumed it was.
I mean, that would make sense. That's how bratty he is. He gets chocolate milk when he wants chocolate milk.
Hell yeah. He wants his chalky milk.
It's either going to be chocolate milk or it's going to be grape juice.
Yep,
Yeah.
Those are the two only drinks in Ace Attorney.
Yeah, or cognac, whatever that is. That's what I assumed. That's what I thought was COG and AC.
Yeah.
You know,
That'll be
question.
a mystery for the ages.
Here's a better question. Considering, like, what I remember from Miles Edgeworth, Ace Attorney 2, where, like, the defendants weren't allowed to eat in there, how the heck did Matt Engar get his, quote-unquote chocolate milk in there? If you
No
want
idea.
Not to mention his phone on his wrist. Just ordering a pizza from prison.
Well, I mean, I know you can order some food to be brought to the detention center cell.
Yeah, but you can't bring communication devices
Yeah, no.
into prison with you.
Yeah, you can't. I was just saying that I'm pretty sure that you could order food in there. So I don't know why he had that communication device, because even the Japanese prisons, they're much more strict about that stuff than the American.
Yeah.
Like, you can't like I've actually researched it, and apparently, like, in the detention cell, like, once you get into your cell, you have to sit on the floor, Caesar style, like, you know, on your legs, and you have to be in that position until you're told otherwise.
Ouch.
Yeah.
Forget that. I'm just gonna not commit crimes in Japan.
Yeah.
That's why there's probably why there's less crimes in Japan.
Possibly. That sounds more like being in the Marines. Having to stay in one position. I don't know if y'all are done talking about Matt.
Yeah, there's not much to talk about with Matt.
Not really.
Because the next, I think the next villain is kind of has the same kind of vanity, but it's a bit too so on the nose that it covers his face. The Richard Wellington. It's like, I'm better than all of you.
Wait,
I don't have to prove it.
Is he even a villain?
He technically is a smuggler.
Yeah, he's a con artist, and he beats Phoenix over the head with a fire extinguisher.
He does. He's vain in
true.
a different way, and I love him, but I also hate him.
It's like, he's, as a villain, he's meh, but as like the tutorial, like, antagonist or the tutorial killer, I mean, he's funny.
Yeah,
oh yeah.
That's what kind of redeems him. He's too vain to be convincing, but it's funny.
Like, if Edgeworth was the prosecutor to that case, he would be like, bitch, please.
Oh yeah.
Slamming the desk every other minute.
I know I know that this is kind of going on a rabbit trail, but
That's fine.
I had this headcanon that the reason that the reason that it's always Winston Payne that's the one that's usually the prosecutor whenever Phoenix is being charged for murder under false charges is because whenever Edgeworth is given the case, he just basically gives it to Winston Payne to cover for him, so he doesn't have to prosecute Phoenix.
That makes sense, actually.
Because the only time he ever prosecuted Phoenix, which is technically was when Red White basically decided to call the chief prosecutor and have Phoenix arrested for Maya's charge, and in that case, Edgeworth was already assigned to that case, so it's not like he could just back out.
Yeah. Oh man, I forgot about Red White. How disgustingly evil he is.
But that was the only time Edgeworth ever prosecuted against Phoenix. Otherwise, he never did. He never even prosecuted against Phoenix, when he was being accused of murdering Doug Swallow, which is
to be fair. That's before he became un-ashholed and again was trying to avoid Phoenix. So
true.
Yeah, but I was just saying that I just find it that because that's the first time. I think there was also Apollo Justice with Hobo Phoenix.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, because Winston Payne also prosecuted against them. We never see Edgeworth in that one as well, assuming he was even there at all and not just in Europe somewhere.
Yeah, Winston Payne's hardly even there at all. He like always, he lacks presence. But in that game, he's just like, I don't even know what's going on. What's going on? I'm lost.
Am I even still here?
Yeah.
Apparently, he's still a character, but he's just known as the tutorial guy.
Pretty much, yeah, he's the rookie killer, but he's actually not that hard to beat if you're paying attention.
With the fabulous locks of hair.
Yeah, I don't know if that's
weird ass sideburn shit.
Yeah.
I love that sprite from the Apollo Justice game when Winston Payne just flips his hair.
It's so good.
But yeah, no, you're still bald, my friend. Just face it. But just one thing I wanted to mention about, since we kind of skipped over Red White. He's not just the kind of guy who has a bunch of money and power and influence and uses it to get what he wants. He has a kind of a personal connection to the Faye family and Marvin Ghostbar.
Oh yeah.
And more than likely, Edgeworth in some way. Everybody in some way. He's Mr. I know all your secrets.
Except
blackmailing.
Yeah.
He even blackmailed Grossberg to not defend Maya by using that ugly ass painting.
Mm-hmm.
Which all I have to say is, why did Mia even trust this guy if he's willing to throw Maya under the bus over an ugly ass painting?
I thought he threatened to tell people that Grossberg was the one who blabbed about the police using a spirit medium.
Yeah, that's what it was. It's just that he also blackmailed him into giving him the painting.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I must have misunderstood. I thought it was over the painting.
Yeah. But the painting was involved, I guess. But yeah, and what was real satisfying about him defeating Red White is basically, it's Mia Fey who comes in and does it, but he's defeated by basically being blackmailed himself.
Yep.
Saying these names here, these names of all these supposed murder victims, it'd be a real problem if they got out to the press, wouldn't they? Wouldn't it? Wouldn't it? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So
Even though,
that's
it would hurt him anyways.
And speaking of villainy, one thing I will say is that, like in the live action version, not only did Red White do all those things, but apparently he was also personally hired by Manfred von Karma to cover his own shtick with DL6.
huh.
Yeah, and this is only in the live action movie, but I thought it was like a pretty interesting addition to it.
I mean, it would add. I'd be, yeah.
Oh, one more thing I mentioned about him. Have either of you seen the Mary Tyler Moore show?
Nope.
Okay, well, there's a character in that named Ted Baxter. He's a anchor man who thinks he's all that. He looks exactly like Red White, and sounds kind of like him too. Y'all look it up. It's differences of course, but he has the same kind of grin and talks the same kind of way. He's a big goof, just like Red White.
Aww.
That's one thing you gotta like about Red White is his attempt to sound smart when he's really just making words up.
Oh, I love it. When you're rich, you can just say whatever the fuck you want.
Yes, I'm numero uno.
Okay,
Americans. So
I'm holding off talking about my favorite because I know that if I start, I'm never gonna fucking stop. So y'all let me know when you're good and ready for me to talk about why I fucking love Dahlia.
Okay.
We were.
First, we need to figure out what other. Oh yeah, Morgan Fay.
Oh,
Morgan
fuck
Fay.
Morgan. Fuck Morgan. Fuck Morgan. Fuck Morgan. I have a lot of opinions. So, okay, actually, I want to talk about Morgan very briefly because of, I've noticed on Ask Ace Attorney, I don't know if it's you or someone else, but y'all tend to say that y'all have tried to give Morgan a slightly sympathetic light of Mr. Hawthorne took away the twins and she tried to keep them.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know who's doing that, but I request that they stop because that is objectively, no.
Yeah.
Only because I only say it's objectively no because I think that if she wanted to keep the twins, she could have literally just told Mr. Hawthorne hey, I want to keep the twins, and he would have been yeah, take them, because it is stated in game that he absolutely never wanted to take them, and he in fact gave away one of the twins because he didn't want to take care of them.
Okay,
so
let me see if I can remember. I know that I briefly that I did have her briefly mention it, but it was kind of under the implication that she was just using it as an excuse, if anything.
Mm-hmm. And she could be making it up for all we know.
Maybe.
Yeah, that's what I was under the that's. But I don't know if I ever made that more abundantly clear as something I consider a headcanon, or just something okay, she's just using it as an excuse to cover up the fault she did, because I know that she is she's not someone I would consider sympathetic at all.
Yeah, no, I'm glad we're on the same page for that, because I wasn't sure, because I fucking hate Morgan.
Yeah, so if you ever see any of the letters where she says that, that's more recent, where she says that, keep in mind I'm only having her answer that as okay, she's just making an excuse.
Gotcha.
It isn't okay.
She's the victim.
Yeah, she's just trying to play victim because that's what she does in the game. She tends to play victim.
Yeah, and she even looks real sad when she's talking sometimes.
Yeah.
I love how terrible she is. That's the other thing, is Morgan definitely orchestrates a lot. She's not the only one who's done it, as it's been told that historically speaking, many other people have committed crimes in the Faye family, but I do love that she's the only instigator in this era.
Yeah. Yeah, I gave her props for how creative she was asking asking her daughter to channel Dahlia and not telling her anything about it, just tell her this will help Mystic Maya if you do it.
Yeah.
So
like any
sneaky way to get revenge.
Even in Ask Ace Attorney, I remember like having Dahlia say that, having both Dahlia and Iris say that they didn't really like their mother because of the way their mother had just basically just tossed them away.
Yeah.
You know?
Oh,
so, yeah.
I got to mention something about that. I think it was the mod who came up with this. I don't know if he came up with this on his own or got it somewhere. When Dahlia was pretending to be someone else, she called herself Melissa Foster. Has the same initials as Morgan Fay. So that was her way of remembering her mother, but in a not so happy light. So I guess that was either a headcanon of his or it could be.
That would be an interesting headcanon.
Yeah.
I very much distracted myself going through Ask Ace Attorney. I'm going to close that now.
Okay. Maybe coincidence, I don't know.
No, I was just looking for my Morgan Fay letter.
Okay.
But I think that the whole thing with that whole Branch family is a goddamn nightmare of fun and enjoyableness, and I love to hate Morgan.
Yeah. Yeah, well, if you're not part of the family, then it's fun.
I also have a bias because I hate abusive mothers, because while my mother was not abusive, I definitely, I'll hear about abusive mothers and I'm like, okay, so I'm going to punch you into the sun now.
Yeah, understandable. I think chronologically we're up to, speaking of Morgan Fay, Mimi Miney now.
Mimi is great. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, she's not...
Again, though, I wouldn't call her a villain. I would call her
an antagonist. I wouldn't call her a villain. I was going to say, I wouldn't call her a villain. She was more of a victim, if anything.
Yeah.
She did get overworked to the point where she killed 14 people.
Well, I figured that was an accident.
It was an accident. It's just that, you know, she still killed 14 people.
Yeah, and accidentally lost her sister.
And as someone whose father is a nurse and can get multiple patients like that, I can say that what happened to those patients was more of Dr. Gray's fault than it was hers. He was just overworking her as the only freaking nurse, having to care for over how many people? Over 20? Not even my dad can do that. He could probably get 12 patients at once, but that's but he can't do 20. That's even too much for him.
Yeah, man.
It's a lot, and I feel really bad for her.
Yeah, the funny thing is, Turner Gray is not just responsible for it. When you first meet him, I could have been convinced he was a killer of some kind.
Yeah, straight up, I thought he was going to be the murderer because he said, "I have a gun."
I have a gun. Yeah.
He kind of acts very crazy. He kind of acts like one of those conspiracy theorists.
Yeah. Yeah, kind of. He's just never happy about anything. Whether the woman was wrong again. Then
no, I wouldn't consider her a villain. I don't.
Yeah, I mean, she basically just getting revenge is her main motive, and also just covering up her.
Yeah, and as far as getting revenge goes, even heroes do that. So that I wouldn't even call it a villainy thing.
Yeah.
It could turn you into a villain, but it's not really a villainy thing.
Yeah, I mean, she did shoot him in the forehead, if that counts for anything. But he deserved it. I'm not saying he didn't deserve it, but
I would say the next true villain in the series is probably actually just Tigra.
Yeah.
Oh, Tigra.
Oh, I forgot. Yeah, We went past Mad on Guard. I forgot. We
Yeah.
already did the same game. Because actually,
the tiger is fucking great. I love him.
Oh yeah, I love him.
But also,
yeah, he's the kind of guy who's smarter than he looks. The way he talks, you think he's just a dunce, but he's
I mean,
pretty
to be
pretty
fair,
clever.
the way he gets got is by fucking saying, "I know what the evidence looks like."
Mm-hmm.
Which, by the way, if you go to my VODs channel and watch that VOD, it is the hardest I've heard Devin laugh in a very long time.
Oh yeah, when he played the game.
Yeah, because I said the poison bottle was brown and it was made of glass, and Devin just cracked up laughing.
Yeah. One thing I got to mention, it was kind of hilarious. Right as he started growling when he got found out, the power suddenly went out, and then it came back on. He was just still in that same pose.
Yep, he's just broken.
Didn't even take the chance to run away. He just stood there like a statue.
To be fair, the only two options he had was go to prison or face Bruno Cadaverini, so...
Yeah, that's a good point. That's, kind of a Mad on Guard kind of situation.
Mm-hmm.
Talk about being stuck between a rock and a hard place more than Mad Guard.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. There's a pretty funny letter I probably ought to mention that the mod answered. One of the prison guards wrote to Tigray saying, "There's a package for you. All it says is, all it says is he."
Yeah.
It's some kind of food. He said, "Hey, yous can have it. I'm trying to watch my weight, you know." Oh, he's quite enjoyable in his own way.
Good ass character. That's what he is.
Mm.
And that he has like a tiger on his vest is a tiger fighting a dragon or something.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
That's
that's
supposed to be symbolic.
Yes, it is symbolic because in the Japanese game,
Oh,
Phoenix's name meant dragon.
Yeah. So he's taking a bite out of him.
I
Yeah.
love the tiger. He's... Like, that case recipe for a turnabout is so mid, but all the characters in her are so good.
Yeah.
Would Luke Atney be considered a villain?
I'm glad you mentioned him.
He's confusing for me because on one hand, yes, and on the other hand, no. Because I would say, if he recovers everything that he steals, that he makes Ron steal and returns it, then technically all he's doing is putting on an elaborate show.
Yeah, how do you know he's doing that?
So he's
But
not...
then on
No,
but then on the other hand, like he was also the one who basically tried to set Ron up by committing a murder just so that he could throw Ron under the wheels of the bus and then get away with it.
Well, sure, that's because he did kill a person, and he had a scapegoat. That's the other thing is, in terms of the throwing Ron under the bus, yes, I think he's a villain. In terms of everything else, I don't. And that's why I think he's so complicated.
Yeah, he is complicated. I'm not sure about this, but I've been trying to think which is out of all the villain characters, which one would I consider my favorite? If Luke Atney is not my favorite, then he's definitely close because it's just the personality. He has the personality of a DC or Marvel villain.
Yeah.
He doesn't act like. Yeah, I mean, you don't know he's the villain, but he does act like one. But just his personality.
He does.
That's what makes him memorable to me. And he's a great big narcissist too. It's right there in his name. Look at me.
I think he's Devin's favorite.
Yeah. And of course, he's got his own catchphrase even.
Zavadi!
Which doesn't mean anything as far as I know.
I don't think so.
No, I don't think so either. I think that's all the villains I can think of from the Ace Attorney trilogy.
We're just gonna skip right over her.
Let me just
No,
add one more thing about
Dahlia, because we're saving Dahlia for last.
Yeah.
one more thing about Luke. I just thought his whole scheme was pretty clever. He got
Oh
a
yeah.
blackmail letter from Kane Bullard. He decided to, instead of getting rid of it, he's going to use it as
That's
evidence.
the thing with Luke is I feel like
Pass it on to Ron.
People are very quick to say that Luke wasn't like a glorified idiot, but he was actually really clever. Like with everything.
Yeah.
And the only reason Phoenix even caught him was because he said something he slipped up during his testimony. But you can't present the evidence. You just have to point out he knows something that he shouldn't.
I love it so
So
much.
he just barely almost got away. I'd say. And then his breakdown is one of my favorites.
Oh, his breakdown is great. Here I am, the tragic clown.
Okay, I'm done.
Yeah, I
great.
think he had like at least he has like one of the best breakdowns. Well,
He does it
not
twice, even.
not of the Ace Attorney trilogy, because I believe that the breakdowns from the Miles Edgeworth investigation series are some of the best ones.
Oh, dude, Callisto's
Definitely.
breakdown where she's just evil laughing before she puts a gun to Kay's head is probably my favorite in that.
Yeah.
Speaking of that, because we could go in chronological order rather than game release order. What other villains are in all I can think about in investigations is frickin' not Kay. Oh my god, Callisto.
Yeah.
Oh, Callisto, you.
Starts with Jacques Portsman. Just a ordinary guy doing ordinary, legit stuff and illegitimate stuff.
Well, here's the thing with Sorry, I'm starving, so I'm eating right now. Here's the thing with Jacques Portsman, and everyone in the first game. Everyone's all in the international smuggling ring, so all I can think of is everyone leads up to K. Oh my god, to freaking it's Callisto. I might.
Yeah.
I have to call her Callisto in case Dev watches this episode.
Callisto, you.
Yeah. Everyone leads up to Callisto, who eventually leads up to the worst villain in the duology, that is Alba.
Yes.
I don't think I know a single person who likes Alba.
Yeah.
No,
I like how much of a challenge he posed. That's about it.
Oh my goodness. I was so frustrated with Alba. I did think that his objection thing was funny, but that was about it.
Objection. That's the best I can do right now. That's the best I can do right now. Sorry.
But like Callisto, I think that she would have been great had she been the mastermind. Had she been playing the role of Alba, then yes, she would have been wonderful. But
she would have been
instead
perfect.
Yes, but then they decide, no, let's not make her the mastermind. Let's make those old fuck we don't know anything about.
Yeah.
Yeah, he just comes out of nowhere and takes all the credit.
Like, steals Callisto's thunder.
It sucks because she's amazing.
Yeah.
A neat thing, something I just noticed, at least a couple of the smuggling ring members, they do a good job making them look like ordinary people you wouldn't expect to be doing anything illegal.
That's how all crime is, isn't it?
Well, I mean, technically, but they just look like the kooky side characters with their own quirks.
Yeah.
Like, it's hard for me to even imagine Jacques Portsman being a prosecutor. But what his objection sounds like. But yeah, they seem like ordinary people until you start prying into them.
Yeah, and
burst their bubbles, shall we say?
Like the other one, and I do like how they involve, like, because all the villains in the Miles Edgeworth investigations are all part of this smuggling ring, and I absolutely like that one of the characters that they involve is someone who's supposed to be a close friend of Manfred von Karma, someone that helped that helped Miles Edgeworth on his feet after after his death note. I thought that was pretty interesting. The only thing that's very disappointing is that I literally do not care anything about him or his spoiled ass son.
Yeah, they're just annoying mostly. Well,
Yes.
Lance is anyway.
Yeah, like Lance and sad part is that they should have made the father the villain and not his spoiled ass son. Which, if you're gonna make a spoiled ass son, there are better ways to do it. I've seen better versions of that.
I just found a blog that has like 1,000 pictures of Kristoff on it. Sorry, I need to stop getting distracted. I'm very scatterbrained today. I'm so tired.
That's fine. Oh, I am too. I got it. I'm coming out of a. I don't even know if I should mention this. I'm coming out of anesthesia. Thing. Yeah, hospital thing. So I'm not all the way awake.
I am in pain. So yeah, but no, I loved the smuggling ring.
Sorry,
I love the smuggling ring. I thought all the characters were fantastic.
I did.
My favorite character, other than Callisto, was oh shoot, what's her name? Cammy. Oh my god,
Cammy.
Oh yeah,
I'm gonna be real. If Cammy, this is just the lesbian inside of my brain. If Cammy wasn't a part of an illegal smuggling ring, I'd date her.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't say that I didn't like it. I like the idea of the smuggling ring. I was just disappointed that they have a character that's supposed to be like closely connected to Manfred von Karma and Miles Edgeworth. He was the one that helped Edgeworth back on his feet when he decided to run off like a bitch after putting his death note and everything. And yet, his son is the one who's the villain, and all this guy is just the antagonist. And I literally do not care.
Yeah. What's his son's motive? He wants more money.
Yeah,
he just wants money. And he found an easy way to get it.
It's like, not to say that a villain can't have a stupid reason. I mean, Maleficent's reason for being evil and cursing Princess Aurora was because she wasn't invited to Aurora's birthday party. But it's like, if you're gonna do something like that, at least like have them go big or go home.
Yeah, it's like Plankton says, being evil is fun.
Yeah. Like, go big or go home with him if you're going to give the villain a stupid reason for being evil.
Mm-hmm.
Especially if they're, like, supposed to be a spoiled-ass son. Because I've seen villains, even anti-heroes, that were spoiled-ass sons that were done so much better than that.
Yeah.
Yep. It's not hard to get them right.
Yeah, it's not hard. Like, it should not be that hard to get someone like Lance right.
Oh, but the problem is that I think Ace Attorney also has a habit of trying to make characters deep, and then when they have a shallow character in a place where it doesn't belong.
Yeah.
Like, Lance would have worked if he was the tutorial villain instead of Jacques.
Yeah.
But in the position where he was at, it was, like, weird.
Yeah. Like, I think Sebastian the Best is the best example of how to do a Lance, in my opinion.
How to do a what? Oh, a Lance, okay.
Yeah. Like, if you want to make someone like Lance is like a spoiled-ass son, I think Sebastian the Best was a better was the best way to go about it. Because, as I said...
precious son, beautiful son can do no wrong.
Exactly.
He's not even that...
No, you done it right.
Yeah, and he's not even that... Well, he's not even really...
He's not spoiled, he's just conceited.
Spoiled. Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Not
because he's abused by his dad, isn't he?
Yeah, he's abused.
Abused and trying to impress him and trying to... well, thinks he can be the best just because he's the best. Like it's his destiny or something.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Like, because this kind of
hard way.
Like, by spoiled ass son, I'm usually talking about like a filthy rich son who thinks that he's better at everything, that he's better than you, he's better than everyone else. Those are the kind of characters I'm talking about.
Right.
And we've seen these kind of characters before in other in other places other than Ace Attorney. Like, I believe Game of Thrones has someone like that. Even Batman has something like that.
Oh, yeah. Bruce Wayne be like, no, I'm thinking of a character from Total Drama. Redonkulous Race. There's this one chick, and she's the fucking worst, and that's how you do Lance wrong. But other than, like, Lance, Alba, and I forgot the dude with the big-ass earlobes, those three suck, but every other villain in that game is pretty dang alright. I love Jacques, Cammy, and Callisto.
Lauren Pops was pretty cute, too.
Which one?
Lauren Pops.
Oh, I forgot Lauren was a bad guy.
No. Yeah, you're just talking about bad guys. I was just talking characters in general.
Oh, no, Lauren is the best.
Yeah.
Yeah, she was pretty cute.
Dude, the fact that when she's distressed she wants to cut off her hair is such a move.
Yeah, my sister had to explain to me that's something rebellious teenage girls do.
Yep, me too.
Just cut their hair. Then they regret it later.
Except I didn't do it when I was a teenager. I did it when I was, like, 20.
Anyway, I kind of got off topic there.
Okay.
What are we up to now?
Ace Attorney Investigations 2.
Oh, that's the best when it comes to villains.
Yes.
Oh, that is a clusterfuck of good villainy. I'm gonna be real. Yeah. I'm just gonna put it out there. I don't think there's a single villain in Investigations 2 that I would consider bad.
No, they're not. Every single one of them are good. Like the stunt, the stunt, the foreign president's stunt double was good.
Oh, dude, he was such an asshole, but I loved that.
Yeah, that body double.
The body double. Patricia.
The thing with a good villain is you either have to love them because you understand them, like you do with what's his nuts? I've actually forgotten his name. Oh my God, Simon! Like you have to pity them, or you just have to unadulterably hate them, like Blaze or Dane Gustavia.
Yeah, or
they basically have every single villain type like under the sun in Investigations 2. You have the pure evil villain, you have the villain you sympathize with, you have basically the minion villain, and you basically have the villain who doesn't even have a name and is just there.
Fucking puppet master. I love Simon so much. He's the only villain up until, like, other than Dahlia, he's the only villain that I've genuinely adored from Ace Attorney. Like, I love me, don't get me wrong, I love me some Kristoff, and, like, I love me some Von Karma and Gant, but give me some Dahlia with a side of Simon any day, and I'm just...
Side of Simon.
You're gonna love Simon. That's why... like, I knew you were gonna love Simon Keys.
Dude, he shows up and he's like, oh, no way. And I'm like, oh, God, you're a sweet baby child, but there's so many of those. And then he becomes the clown, and I'm like, oh, shit, okay, I'm into this.
Yeah, that was quite a moment.
He becomes the criminal clown prince of crime. Joker can kiss his ass.
Yeah. And look at me, says he's the tragic clown, but nope, he doesn't hold a candle to Simon Keys.
Oh, Simon. Here's the other thing, though. Simon is the perfect example of when you're both right and wrong. Because I love it. I love it when a villain is doing the wrong thing for the right reasons, and that is absolutely what Simon is doing.
Yeah, technically he's mostly getting revenge, but he's also helping them to put away some pretty awful people.
Oh, yeah. Simon is absolutely helping because Patricia is a shitty person. Blaze fucking kills people, I'm pretty sure. That's what disappearing means. The freaking body double murdered a freaking president. Like, it's pretty freaking intense what Simon is doing. And even at the end of the game, everyone kind of is like, okay, you did a bad thing and you're gonna suffer for it, but I understand why you're doing it.
Yeah.
Also, the people and animals don't much care to be manipulated.
Nope.
When they find out, they're like, oh.
Even Miles Edgeworth, admitted that Simon Keys would have been, like, didn't was the kind of victim that couldn't be saved by a defense attorney, but by someone who was actually in the law. That was
Yeah.
Yeah.
that was
Implying
working
that a
in
defense
law.
attorney is not in the law, but go off, I guess. No, I
Yeah,
know what
he
you mean. What you
basically-
mean is like he needs a prosecutor who knows like how to be straight rather than a crooked one like Blaze or a shitty detective like Patricia. He needs someone who is gonna be on his side even as they're fighting against him.
Yeah, and I love how they have Ace Attorney Investigations too, to give Miles Edgeworth a reason for why he prosecutes. Because
Yeah.
when he was a little boy, he wanted to become a defense attorney, and then after his dad died, he basically lost his way. And so this is basically confirming that no, he's going to continue being a prosecutor, because even though he might not even though he might not be saving people as a defense attorney, it isn't to say that he's not going to save people as a prosecutor. It makes it very clear that even prosecutors do save people. It's just a different way of doing it.
Yeah.
And when you
Like he
really
says,
think about and,
like he,
prosecutors, they're lawyers too, but, they don't represent a particular individual. They represent the state, the
the state.
county.
Yeah. And like you
Yeah,
said,
they represent many more people. They represent a whole flock of people. Whereas a defense attorney or any other attorney, they usually represent like an individual person.
it reminds me of what he said near the end, or like right at the end. His father's path and his path are going basically going in different directions, but ending up in the same place, something like that.
Yeah,
They're both,
they're both
both,
like
you know,
going on opposite paths, but they're going after the same, but they're like aiming for the same goal, kind of like
yeah,
Ryunosuke and Kazuma. Both
yeah.
of them are going on
Oh
different
shoot,
paths, but their goals are still the same. Which, I really like that they're making Kazuma a prosecutor now, because it supports the idea of what Ace Attorney is basically, making the point of, in their games, which is that both prosecutors and defense attorneys, they may go different paths, but their goals are still the same. Kazuma's goal, from the beginning has not changed. His path has.
yeah, yeah. It's pretty neat.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, one other thing I gotta mention about Investigations 2. I think I mentioned before, like in a previous modcast, how one thing I love about the game is the overarching theme of parents and children,
Yeah.
the connection between them, or
Mm-hmm.
disconnection in some cases. Both the story basically starts out with two little boys who are friends, but they're both abandoned essentially by their fathers. One of them, and that among other things leads them to be the kind of person they are. One of them, president's bodyguard who cares more about his image than actually doing his job, but more about being important, and one who's a tragic clown.
Interesting about it is like, and I kind of noticed it when I was first playing it, like during the prisoner turnabout, was the subtle comparison with Simon Key's relationship with Horace Knightley, with Miles Edgeworth and Phoenix Wright. I thought that was pretty
Oh
interesting.
yeah, I didn't really think of that.
Yeah, that's what I literally was thinking that when I first played the game. I'm like, of course, Miles is going to defend this guy, because his relationship, because this guy Simon Keys reminds him of Phoenix.
Yeah.
Like, and how many times has Phoenix been charged, falsely accused for murder? Like,
3 times.
exactly.
There you go. Yeah. And
Yeah.
it didn't go quite the same
Yeah, and I
for
think,
them, but there are
well, I
similarities.
mean, kind of, but when you actually look at the end and you realize that Simon Keys and that Horace Knightley reminds Miles of himself, and Simon Key's Phoenix Wright, it starts making sense why Edgeworth decides to continue being a prosecutor to save people like Simon Key, because he realizes that, because even with how tragic Simon Key, what happened with Simon Keyes and Horace Knightley, it makes him realize that something like that almost happened with him in Phoenix when you really think about it.
Yeah, I mean, neither of them were abandoned by their parents, but he
Well,
lost.
no,
He lost
but
his parent and
yeah,
changed him a lot.
Yeah, like Edgeworth lost his dad, and Phoenix lost his best friend, and who else also lost his dad and the other lost his best friend. I mean, they both. I mean, it was kind of like Simon and Horace, like they both got the shortest end of the stick when it came to their relationship, but the biggest difference was that Simon Keyes was taken under the wing of pretty much a murderer.
An assassin.
Whereas Phoenix Wright, I mean, thank goodness he was taken under the wing of Mia Fey instead. So it's kind of, I mean, when you really think about it, like, what if instead of Mia Fey, what if Phoenix Wright was taken under the wing of someone of a killer? Then it would be
a corrupt defense attorney.
Yeah, and
that's why. Can I just say real quick? That's why I love that part of investigations too. Just how different things could be if people were brought up and had better influences. And I believe there's influence and then there's conscious decision when it comes to the kind of person somebody becomes. But it plays a big part, especially your parents or foster parents or guardians. That's an important part of anybody's life. So the game really makes you think about that, even if it's all fictional. What were you gonna say?
I don't really have anything to say right now.
Okay.
Like, should we go to the should we now go to the Apollo Justice villains?
There's not a lot to say about them, in my opinion, except for Kristoff.
Yeah, Kristoff.
The others are mid.
Yeah, I kind of like Alita, and I kind of.
I have nothing to say about Alita or Dick Hair. I'm gonna be real. I have referred to him as Penis Hair and Dick Hair so much, I actually keep forgetting his name is Darian.
Darian. That's a hard name to remember anyway.
It's a weird-ass name, and he's such a forgettable character, aside from the fact that he likes to stroke his dick hair.
Yeah. And of course, his breakdown's pretty memorable.
Oh, his breakdown is great. It's reminiscent of Matt Engard.
Yeah, I think it's supposed to be like a shark attack or something.
Yeah.
But,
I love Kristoff because he's the example of a villain who didn't... who chose to be a villain towards very specific people, as opposed to the rest of the villains we've talked about, who are kind of villains to everybody.
Yeah, like a personal grudge.
Like, Kristoff is still doing his job as a defense attorney. He's still defending people. He's still helping people. But he also really fucking hates Phoenix and also committed a murder, which is a bad. So, And
tried to frame Phoenix for it.
And tried to frame Phoenix.
So Phoenix gets framed again.
And remember when I said like earlier, how a villain doesn't really need to have can have a stupid reason for being evil. This is Kristoff is an example of how to do a villain who becomes evil for a very petty and stupid reason.
That is true. He lost a poker game and then turned to murder.
Exactly.
He lost a poker game and they never forgave him.
Actually, real talk, he lost a poker game and he didn't turn to murder, but he did fuck up Phoenix's entire career and then 10 years later turned to murder.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
I assume like his motivation was he had a chance to be a hero as a defense attorney, and then that was just taken from him. And
Yeah, Gavin planned to use Zach Meyer's murder as a chance to win a high-profile case in order to obtain fame and respect, which, valid, I guess.
yeah, but there are going to be more opportunities down the road. You don't need to be that sore about it.
Nah, he does. He can absolutely be that sore because he's
Oh, fine.
Kristoff and he's really
Yeah,
clever.
yeah. Well, see, I know, and I can kind of relate to that. Like I've had opportunities that I either didn't get or got and then lost for one reason or another. So I understand the anger and the uh, the disappointments behind that.
Now I do remember that with the that in the Ask Ace Attorney blog, when someone asked Christoph of what that the of how stupid it was and why he did it, like he did say that it was that he also included that it was also not just the fact that he lost to a poker game, but also that he wanted to impress his little brother Clavier on his very
Oh
first
yeah.
house. So very
Ew! No!
what?
Ew! Gross! Awful! Terrible! No!
What's
Like,
awful?
Sorry, I hate that because there is next to no implication that that Kristoff even likes Clavier.
Yeah, well,
It's
yeah, they don't.
sorry, I didn't think I'd have such a strong reaction, but anytime I ever see any interaction between those two in the game or out of the game, I always see him more just putting up with Clavier rather than ever trying to impress the motherfucker, and I just think that it's very like I don't think that it's
Yeah.
in character that he'd want to impress his 17-year-old brother who's already a prosecutor, you know? It'd be different if his brother was like 10. Sure, but like if you're trying to impress a 17-year-old even if he is your brother, like you got to get your priorities in order.
Yeah.
I mean, it still is treated as pitiful, but I only included that because, like, I didn't think that the game really, gave us a clear indication of what his relationship with Clavier is, especially since we don't really get a lot of time with the two of them, and except for Turnabout Succession. And Turnabout Succession was just like so many things happening at once that it's like I don't even know what the relationship between the two are, or even how Clavier feels about his brother after everything
Yeah.
he's done. It's just like left hanging like the hangman.
You do have to admire how Clavier uh, is willing to go after his brother, his own flesh and blood, because he looked like supposedly committed a crime and another crime.
Yeah, and
But his
it's the
family
same
ties don't
with
matter to him.
and it's the same with Apollo, except I don't even know what Apollo's relationship with his mentor was. It's like, okay, that was his mentor, and then he just throws him under, and then he says, "Sorry, but I have to question you," and then
I'm going to
that's
say it
just
right.
the end of it.
I'm going to say it right now. That's what DD and SOJ should have handled. They should
Wait,
have handled
their relationship.
Well, sort
Yes,
of.
yes,
More
I do
so,
agree with that. Yes.
More so, I wish that they had just done more on what that Kristoff's arrest and descent into madness, like how that affected Clavier and Apollo, who apparently had a close enough relationship as mentor and sibling. Like, I want to know what the fuck that actually was like for them.
Yeah. One thing I mentioned about since you mentioned this descent into madness when it comes to villains looking like they have it all together until something cracks and then they show their true colors. Kristoff is one of the most satisfying ones there.
Oh yeah.
It just explodes. At first
he goes Super Saiyan.
Yeah, well, first he just pounds his fists, and then the second time he's just like, right.
And then his hair just like goes everywhere.
Yeah, I saw a comic where they explained that by there being fans beneath him that went on when he did that,
Like,
so great.
blowing his hair.
But yeah, like the reason that I also had Clavier include that he wanted to, be be there for his little brother for his first prosecution was because we never really get anything on his relationship with Clavier, and I wanted to at least, and I thought, okay, I'll just just throw maybe a little something that could work, but it's like we're just not given anything. It's kind of the same thing with Manfred von Karma and Miles Edgeworth, except I have more interest. I have enough interest between the two of them to actually get something that's more tangible.
Yeah, that's what happens when they don't include things. You just have to try to fill them in yourself. And there's fun. There's some fun in that.
Yeah, but it's also very bad when when the fans have to be the one to fill in the gaps.
Yeah, and sometimes they disagree with how they fill in the gaps.
Yeah, it's like because you're gonna always have those that say, "Yeah, that's not how I interpret it," and then the others like, "Well, that's how I interpret it," and then you have like these 20 or 100 different interpretations of how point A went to point B and C.
Yeah, that's a whole discussion of its own.
Mm-hmm.
One thing I didn't like about Kristoff is that they kind of recycled him, have had him be the culprit of the first one, and then the culprit of the fourth one.
Like, sure, that's what they did with Dahlia too.
Yeah, but
she wasn't she only the culprit in two different ones.
Yeah,
not one and then the final one.
Oh God.
I think the problem with that Turnabout Succession did bring him back. And how they did it was very clever, but how it was executed was so complicated that it just became a whole big mess.
Awesome in theory and a total mess in practice.
There you go.
Yeah, basically in a nutshell. It's awesome in theory, but it was just a big mess.
Yeah. Do we want to move on to Dual Destinies real quick? Because there's one villain in there I'd love to talk about.
Oh no, which one?
Well, Aristotle Means.
Okay, I'm valid with that.
Oh my!
We're going to talk about the Phantom.
Oh, thank goodness. Okay.
I'm not ready to discuss my emotions towards the Phantom. We can start with Means. I love Means.
Yeah. Did you mean to say that? Emotions toward the Phantom?
Yes.
Okay. I'll briefly mention. What's his name? Ted Tonate, or was has an interesting personality. It's detonate spelled backwards. Detonate. Well, the first three letters. It's
basically Boom Boom Man. Let's just call him Boom Boom Man.
He's the bomb obsessed guy, and he even has his own evil laugh. He might as well be a Batman villain. And Florent LaBelle is basically...
that would be an insult to other Batman villains.
I mean, just being his personality.
I love Florent LaBelle, but only for his music.
Mm-hmm. He's basically Richard Wellington 2.0. I mean everything and you mean nothing, peasant.
So awful.
Bring perfume.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Okay, I will say that LaBelle's breakdown was probably the second best, with only in Dual Destinies, with number one being that director Cosmos guy.
Yeah. He wasn't even a villain so much as...
Yeah, but as far as
trickster.
The best villain breakdown, it would definitely be LaBelle in Dual Destinies. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I love that. You get to see not only proof that his hair was colored, but just how not so pretty he looks underneath all that makeup. My sister thought the last color you see is blonde. She thought that was his natural color until it washed off. And he was gray hair.
Mm-hmm.
Aristotle Means, and just that whole case. Of course, I love it because Athena's the main character, but also it kind of gets into the philosophy behind what criminals and just villains in general, but why they do things if they have a reason. You know his catchphrase: "The ends justify the means."
Mm-hmm.
just pretend you're seeing somebody grin right now. Sorry. But that's his philosophy. He stands by it. He says, I say what I mean and mean what I say by all means. But he not only claims that he lives by it. He lives by that, obviously, and that philosophy is basically what ended him and his career. He thought, and that's how a lot of other ones are. But yeah, he thought, well, I'm not getting paid enough, so I'll take bribes to give students good grades. And then he was found out by Constance Court. It's like, stab. So,
which is exactly what happened with Sebastian de Best. He went to the same school, and his dad did basically the same thing as that.
Yeah.
What happened to that other defense attorney guy?
Mm-hmm. Oh, Hugh O'Connor.
Yeah, Hugh O'Connor.
Yeah,
every time I hear the word Connor, I keep thinking of Superboy.
Yeah. That makes me think of Detroit's Become Human, but that's whatever.
Yeah.
But that's just what I love about that case, and Aristotle means it's not when he breaks down, it's not just his innocence that's ruined, it's his whole philosophy, and the chalk and chalkboard go down with him.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, maybe the ends justified the means wasn't such a great idea after all.
Yeah. I do like how he just goes like insane like once, like it looks like he might be the murderer, and he puts up this chalkboard and he just looks like so terrifying.
Mm-hmm.
He has the same philosophy, I would say, as Christoph, where it doesn't matter what shitty means you use. If you're doing good, then it doesn't matter how much bad you do along the way. And I think that is really... That is something that they hammer home in the second half of the friggin' series, and I don't like how much they hammer it home, because it's like, man, I get it.
Yeah, well, yeah. But it's it's not just the fact that he's a successful... He was a defense lawyer, and now he's a teacher, professor. But he's someone in a high position who holds that philosophy. He's teaching students to have that same philosophy, and heaven knows how many of them ended up taking that to heart, and how much damage they caused or might cause down the road if they honestly believe they can do whatever they want to get to justice, even breaking the law. So, so, and he got taken down by a 18-year-old defense attorney.
I would say that he's the only villain and defense attorney that would be the most interesting, or at least the most like terrifying villain, because the rest of the villains there are just like either they're LaBelle, who are basically like likable for all the wrong reasons, or they're basically like, or they're just forgivable, or they're just like they're just like what the fuck.
Yeah, it's and I assume you're thinking about the Phantom there.
Well, yes, but I'm not just talking about the Phantom. I'm also talking about that oh my goodness, he was the most annoying character in Dual Destinies. That Finch guy?
Oh, Phineas Filch.
Yeah, Filch! Oh my god, I hated him.
Yeah, nice.
I'm just gonna be real. I don't remember any of the characters from the second game except Means, the main characters, and the Phantom. So
and
forgive me if I don't recall who Filch is without Googling it.
Okay.
Yeah, it's fine if you Google it, but let me tell you, if you want to know how to poorly execute a a an annoying, troublesome character like Larry Butts or Sebastian the Best, Filch is the perfect example of how not to do that.
Mm-hmm. Is
Man,
shifty
I
guy.
totally forgot about him. He's the guy who looks like a Professor Layton character.
Yeah, or a Tanuki.
Yeah.
But when it comes to the Phantom, I remember thinking, wait, we just caught this guy who's caused so much trouble and personal trouble for Athena Sykes, and we don't get to see his face.
Yeah, no, we never
He
get to
might
see
not
his
even
face.
his face or find out who
I
he is or who the sniper was who shot him.
I
It's just all
personally
remains a
liked
mystery.
that he stayed a
I kind
mystery.
I kind of like
Yeah.
that. I was unsatisfied at first, but I thought that it kind of opens it up to could he, well, we get to fill it like we said before. We get to fill in. Is he some foreign
Totally.
spy? Is he is he like from another country? Is he from this
Yeah.
country? Is he from another planet? Is he a
Like,
demon?
I think the biggest problem with the Phantom is that they did a good, like, I like what they did by, not revealing to the audience of who he actually is, like what his name is or any of that. But how they did it but how they executed it only brought in more questions than answers. Interestingly enough, I do include him as a character in one of my fan fictions, where, as it turns out, he is actually the twin brother of Patricia Rowland.
Oh,
And in that universe, because in that fan fiction, since I basically had made a fan fiction where DL6 basically, well, I mean, it did happen, but instead of Gregory Edgeworth, it's Yanni Yogi that gets shot.
oh
In
yeah.
that one, the Phantom, the Phantom who the Phantom actually adopts Phoenix Wright.
Huh.
Yeah.
I would posit that we should keep fanfic of alternate universes separate from our opinion on canon characters.
Yeah. Well, yeah, obviously.
Okay. Yeah, but yeah, I was just saying that I just kind of added that, but yeah, like the Phantom doesn't really have much of a character other than that.
Mhm.
Like, he's just like, okay, he's some spy. Okay, what kind of organization does he work for? Like, we're never told anything about. As I said, it just gives us more questions than answers. We know he's a spy, okay, but what does he work for? Even James Bond gives us the answer to, like, what each of the villains work for. Like, there's no name of the organization or secret spy or agent thing.
Yeah.
There's nothing about him that really stands out. It's like the moment he went from being Bobby Fulbright, who was like full of character and like filled with like even Bobby Fulbright, his disguised character, felt like he had more character than the Phantom. Like, we knew more about Bobby Fulbright than we did the Phantom. The Phantom, all of a sudden, it's like, what? It's like they're trying to give us like this this twist villain, like, oh, I was the villain the entire time, without letting us get to know who the villain actually is behind the mask, which is not how you do a twist villain. If you're going to do a twist villain, we need to know more about who the villain actually is behind the mask and less of who the mask is. Otherwise, you run into stuff like otherwise you run into, the same problem Frozen had with making Hans the villain for some reason.
Yeah, he's just a jerk. We don't know
Yeah.
why, but he's a jerk.
It's like, yeah, we see Hans, going out of his way to help the people of Arendelle by giving them clothes and everything, and then he seems like he's willing to help Elsa and try to get her to calm down and save her sister, and all of a sudden it turns out he was the villain the entire time, and it's like, okay.
Why? Yeah.
Well, that just came the fuck out of nowhere. Now you're leaving me with more questions than answers.
Now, at least the Phantom has an excuse for not having much personality. He's supposed to not have very much emotion. He's just
but
unique in
don't
that
even
way.
know.
But still,
We don't even know why he doesn't, and it's very sad when when someone gives me a question and asks his attorney of why, and I have to say I have to have him answer that he was lobotomized because I can't think of any other reason.
Okay. I mean, you can just say that that's confidential.
I figured he was just unique in that way. Like he's got emotions, but not very strong ones. Or he's from another planet. Or from hell. It could be any of those.
As far as I'm concerned, like he probably gave his soul to the devil and asked the devil to get rid of all the fear, or better yet, he went to the Batman universe.
So what you're saying is Athena isn't the only one who sacrificed to go.
Well,
That's a reference to the last episode. So, sorry, my friend Phoenix brings up a very interesting point. I see the Phantom as the same as Joker sees Batman. Making his identity known and reducing him to some guy just ruins things. Keeping his identity a secret and keeping him full of mystery and uniqueness is what makes him so memorable, and I actually completely agree.
He's a force of nature villain.
Yeah, I feel like if we knew who he was and what he was capable of and like who he worked for, it would just water him down. Whereas because we don't know the answer to these questions, he's a lot more interesting and leaves a lot open to the imagination for the people to enjoy.
Mm-hmm.
For some reason, I'm always laughing at the idea when you say that he just sacrificed.
I know, that's why I keep saying it, because I know I'm going to get a laugh out of you every time.
So what? When did Athena sacrifice a goat?
I was making a joke because I said last time that her powers come from nowhere.
Oh.
Yes, which is basically what I'm saying about the Phantom, is that, like, him becoming, all of a sudden, he's like this evil Phantom. It just comes out of nowhere, and we're just left with more questions and answers.
Well, I would argue that because he's supposed to be a disguise artist, that him coming out of nowhere makes more sense than if it were to be a build-up. The whole point is that he is a perfect disguise of Bobby Fulbright, and it isn't until people start to realize, oh shit, Bobby Fulbright has been dead for the last year, that he's like, well, I guess I'm just gonna do my shit then.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think it works better that we didn't know until the very last second. I don't know. Maybe that's just me. I have found that the Phantom is a very divisive character. I don't know a lot of people who either love or hate him. Like, I know everyone loves or hates him. I don't know anyone who's neutral about it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. We could do a whole episode on him, probably. I got an idea real quick.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I got that was just an idea. But if we want to speed through Spirit of Justice, there's really only one villain in there that I care a lot about. That's Roger Ratens.
Rock and Roll Jesus, or what?
Roger Ratens.
Oh,
the Ratings Roger. Mr. Reus.
Ratines, or whatever the fuck, yeah.
Ratens.
Tony Stark.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna call him Tony Stark because that is Tony Stark.
Mm-hmm.
Can I just briefly say, in 2016 when I first played the game, I saw Roger Ratines, or whatever the fuck his name is. I know it's probably whatever, but like I've pronounced it Ratines, and even before then, I constantly forget his name because all I see in him is Tony Stark because he looks exactly like Robert Downey Jr.
He does.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, he's probably the only villain that I would find the most interest in, because the rest of the villains, I literally do not care.
Mm-hmm. And I just like it.
Oh no, go ahead.
Sorry. Thanks. I thought he was a fairly good twist villain. He seems he seems like a not too nice guy, but just laid back, and hey, as long as I get my money, I'll be okay.
Yeah.
Then he turns around and says he's not only he's a bad guy, he's a magician, and he even pulls a trick before he reveals he's a magician. Like, what camera? I don't see a camera.
Yeah, and that's how you do a twist villain, because I know more about what is behind the mask of Roger Rentes than I do of whatever the heck he was disguising himself as. You know?
Yeah. Yeah. We learn about his past, so he's.
See, okay,
Yeah,
so
like
I'm gonna be real. Y'all are calling him a twist villain, but it's not a twist if you know it's coming.
Well, I didn't see it coming.
I did. Literally the second he came on and he was like, "Oh, I'm, doing this shit." I was like, "Okay, so you're the bad guy."
Yeah, well, he's a magician. He fooled me.
Well, I mean, like, I knew he was the bad guy, but what I did not expect was that he was was how connected he was to Trucy, that he was part of the Graham Rye. Like, that was the
sure,
twist.
but if that's, I guess, but like, I still didn't fucking, that whole case, the fact that he was connected is, by the way, ruined for me, because the fucking poster they show to have him there has Lemira there, and I'm just sitting there wondering how the fuck does Trucy not recognize her? Anyways, that's unimportant.
That's a good point.
That's unimportant. My big thing is just, like, it felt like out of nowhere to me. Like, oh, okay, suddenly there is this fifth person, and somehow, despite, her dad and her mom and her uncle and her grandfather all being in this group, not a single one of them ever brought up this guy to her, or she never knew him somehow. Like he left during 2015, and Trucy, I need to Google this because I don't remember when. Oops, she was born 2010, I think. Yeah, 2010. She would have been 4 or something, maybe too young to remember, but at least she'd be like, oh yeah, there were 2 people who left, not just my mom. And it's like, I don't like him. I'm sorry. I want to like him because he's a cool twist, but he serves no purpose in all of SOJ because it has nothing to do with Trucy as a whole. And the whole case feels like it has severe third case syndrome because every other case feels somehow connected except for the one with the storyteller.
Yeah, I do agree that I do agree with that when they decided to include him as like part of the Graham Reed, that when you first find out, which is, by the way, like at the beginning, before you even knew he was the villain or anything, because of that poster there, it does feel like, wait, what? Like it just feels like a retcon almost.
Yeah. One of the things I gotta say is how, maybe it's just me being naive, but it looked a lot. I thought they did a good job making it look like Betty was we only knew her as Bonnie at the time, but like looked like she was the evil one. I mean, the culprit, or at least related to the crime somehow. And Roger was just fawning over her the whole time. It was quite different from that.
I think that she's basically what Dahlia Hawthorne would be if she was sane.
Oh, don't even.
Oh gosh. I'm just thinking about that, but I forget what I was going to say. But yeah, she looks like she has a personal grudge against Trucy, and she even says so. And she even basically says she'd be perfectly fine if Trucy went to jail, but she's not the one who framed her.
Yeah, and then they reveal plot twist. She's actually a fan. Like at the very end, it's like, oh, she's actually a fan, and I'm like, okay, again, it came out of fucking nowhere.
Yeah.
Putting on a front. A lot of fronts being put on in that game.
A lot of things came out of nowhere in Spirit of Justice.
Yeah.
It's because it's a bad game.
Wrote a bad game, Petey. I mean, Capcom. Anyway.
I will never forgive them for Spirit of Justice. No, I wanted to like Roger Bettines, but his whole case sucks.
Yeah. I also kind of relate. I also kind of relate to him as somebody who had dreams and didn't quite get to them.
To be fair, he got fucked because of his own hubris.
Hubris, pretty much.
But
wasn't it because of an injury that he got kicked out of the Grammary?
He got injured, and Magnifi was like, "All right, get out."
Pretty much.
Yeah,
no, Magnifi said you can't be in the next show because you got injured, and then he showed up anyways. And then Magnifi was like, "All right, if you're not gonna listen to me, then you're fucking fired."
Mm-hmm.
And as if that's as if like that's his fucking. It's like that's not your fault. What the hell, man? Selfish little bitch. God, I hate this creature.
Yeah. Well, he's just another narcissist.
Yeah, and I think that it isn't the character itself, like as a villain, that was the issue so much as I think it was just the story itself. It doesn't help that the magical turnabout literally has nothing to do with the overarching plot of Spirit of Justice.
There's that part at the end where Phoenix is saying he trusts Apollo since he was able to take care of Trucy while he was gone, but that's pretty much it.
Well, yeah, and not to mention there is the asshole monk prosecutor who basically makes a hint that, yeah, Apollo, I'm going to be your Edgeworth. How about that, bitch?
Except now, because you're not valid.
Yeah. We're running kind of short on time. Do we want to talk about the Chronicles games villains or?
Yeah, because I literally do not care about the rest of the Spirit of Justice villains. Like, Garon is basically the card.
I hate to do this because I know I'm going to waste the rest of the time. So I'm going to let us we can go over the Chronicles villains, but I want to do a comparison of the two female villains in the series and why one is so much better than the other.
Okay. So that's the first one. Is Giselle Brett.
Oh, yeah.
One hat.
Brett.
I love her personality. Even if she's a great big jerk, I love just how smug she is. Basically, British Dahlia Hawthorne.
Well,
no,
not
I
quite
would
the
not
same,
compare her.
Not quite the same. Just that her smugness reminds me of Dahlia's smugness.
I'm gonna just say it.
Go
Giselle
ahead.
Brett was meh as a villain.
You're saying she's mid?
She's meh. I don't know. It's like I'm not interested in her. I don't like her, but I don't hate her. I'm kind of just in the middle with her. I just don't know what to feel about her.
Yeah.
She's average, I agree. I think she could have been I think she was like good for what she was. But if you tried to make her more than what she was, she wouldn't work.
Yeah. Yeah. Like she was just kind of in the middle. I wouldn't even compare her to Dahlia Hawthorne because Dahlia Hawthorne, I mean, she made herself.
I'm going to say it right now. The big difference between Brett and Hawthorne is presence.
Yeah! Like that scene from, what's it called? Megamind? Like...
Presentation! Exactly.
Presentation!
But I don't know. I mean, you're saying she wasn't as flashy as Dahlia?
I'm saying that when Giselle Brett is not on screen, I'm not thinking of Giselle Brett because she is irrelevant.
That makes sense.
Whereas when Dahlia is not on screen, there's so much dialogue and hinting and subtext that makes me go back to what Dahlia did to Phoenix and Terry and all of that.
Yeah.
So the presence exists in the sense that she is actually like important, and she doesn't feel important to anyone else.
Yeah, and as far as presentation is concerned, I mean, I'm sorry, but even prosecutor Ouchie had more presence than Giselle Brett.
That's true, and that's saying something.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know. I guess I enjoyed her golfiness.
I did love her as a character. She was great. It's just,
we never get to see her eyes. She always has the mask in front or her hat in front.
It's like when you hear that that she's returning back or something in the second game, even if it is as a victim, you're just thinking, this bitch again.
Well, at least we don't have to hear her talk again.
Yeah, true,
Well,
but
except
like
in the flashback, but that's it.
it's just it just kind of like, what's she doing here? Why is she relevant?
Yeah.
You
As she
know?
is relevant later in a different way, but
Yeah, but it's like it's like you're just like, but I think now let's actually talk about villains from Chronicles that are actually not
So,
average or mid.
okay, sorry.
There are only 2 of those, and it's fucking Magnus von. It's McGilded. It's not
Magnus
Von.
McGilded.
Yeah,
Magnus McGilded with
McGilded.
his goddamn top hat and Strongheart.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Most of the culprits in the first game are just victims of circumstances.
Yep.
Or
Yeah,
something like
basically the Matt Engard and Simon Keys of the Great Ace Attorney Chronicles is McGilded, and I love how much presence he has.
Yeah. Oh yeah. He's got personality. He's got character, and he's got charm. Makes you think.
Now I will say that is the best, like, as far as like twist villains go. Like, I love how from beginning, like how you don't even know for sure if he actually was the murderer, or how far he took his crimes until like after he's dead.
Yeah.
Like he just took it to his grave.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I honestly thought that for a moment they make it look like it's those 2 guys on the carriage who might be responsible. Then they get all defensive. It's like, oh well, that's something the culprit would do. But nope, they're actually innocent.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
And there's false evidence leading to them, but they didn't do it.
and it's and it's like the fact that Strongheart was the one who assigned Ryunosuke to take this case because like Kazuma was thought to be dead at the time, and we find out later in the second game that it turned out that Kazuma was hired to assassinate Tobias Gregson, and the fact that Strongheart was like that we didn't even know this until the second game, but that Strongheart assigned Ryunosuke to this guy just to see if he would be qualified for it. To do Kazuma's job. Like, that is so messed up in so many ways.
Yeah, Strongheart's a strange character in so many ways. He's also he's got a little too much presence, I think. In a good way.
Oh my goodness. Strongheart has so much presence. He's been having presence since the first time he ever made his appearance. Like,
yeah.
Well,
the
sure,
theme
but that's
song,
because he was like important. That's the big thing, is he's not just the bad guy.
Yeah.
He's
yeah,
also
but the thing is that there were other important characters in high positions, but I never felt like, outside of maybe someone like Justine Courtney, maybe, like, as far as I know, there has never been someone of that's supposed to hold higher authority that had as much presence as Strongheart did.
Yeah.
Like, even his own office, like, held presence. Like, the big old clock.
Big old clock and all the windows.
Yeah,
the birds.
And the library. and the birds. Looks like a bird sanctuary inside the clock.
Yeah. Suits of armor everywhere. They spared no expense for him.
The only other character I could think of that had as much presence as him really is Damon Gant, and that's about it.
Yeah,
no.
I get the feeling they took some inspiration from Gant to make.
Oh yeah,
oh absolutely. Those two are related. I don't care what anyone says. Strongheart is Gant's ancestor.
Even as a clap.
Fucking I'd say the character. I don't think you necessarily need legal presence to have presence. I think Dahlia has more presence than Strongheart, if only because.
Oh yeah, I'm not.
Like,
yeah,
here's the thing with Strongheart is in my streams, you very much said that it was super obvious he was the bad guy, and I was like, I mean, he could be, he could not be. Just because it looks obvious doesn't mean it is.
Mm-hmm.
That's how I felt, like, and why I don't like it when anyone says anything. It's not even just a thing of, like, it could be. It's just, like, I like to speculate. And if it's possible that he's a villain, like, cool.
I just thought that you guys already knew. That's the thing.
I mean, I was pretty sure of it, but I still liked the idea that he might have been innocent.
Yeah, like, when I mentioned that in the live stream, I thought that you guys already knew by that point.
That's fair.
Yeah.
Especially since it was getting to the point where literally the time when my comment was revealed was when it was already being revealed at the same time. So
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It was like timing. Such timing.
Timing.
God, I forgot about this guy. Sorry, I'm looking at Valent sprites.
Balance.
Balance.
Oh.
But yeah, like, I do agree that Dahlia has more presence than Strongheart. I was talking about, like, someone, like, characters in high positions in general.
That's fair.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Because, like, if we're to be honest, most villains that have more presence usually do not have, like, those high positions. Like, they don't have, like, they're not in positions of authority. The fact that they're in positions of authority is what makes them by itself. If we have villains that are in positions of authority, like, think of Lex Luthor or something, they usually don't have as much presence because they don't need that much presence. Their presence is within the power they have. But when you have a combination of that and having so much presence of a typical villain, of a typical, like, Disney villain, I mean, that's a bonus.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and if they start out not having a lot of presence and then they suddenly do.
Oh,
or they
yeah.
gradually do. I think that's why Simon Keyes is such a great villain.
Oh, yeah.
He's just one of the characters for most of the game, and then surprise.
Yes.
Anyway, I'm trying to remember who else was a villain in the Chronicles games now.
No one important.
No one important.
I mean, I would say Drebber was pretty damn good, but that's only because I really enjoyed voicing him and fucking up my throat.
He had...
Yes. And I knew you were gonna like him, and I remember, like, when he planted that bomb to explode that thing that Albert Harebrain had made or something.
Super instantaneous kinesis machine.
Yes.
Okay.
That I made a comment about, like, him being the ancestor of Nagito.
Accurate though. Yeah. I loved Drebber. I do think that he was the perfect he was relevant, but he wasn't really I guess he's a villain while also simultaneously being a victim. A lot of the villains in Ace Attorney like to play the victim, and they're like, I'm a victim too, and I'm like, no, you're not. But, like, whenever Drebber brought it up, I was like, yeah, actually, you're a super victim, and I feel really bad for you, even though you did shitty thing to my favorite character.
I forgot what happened to him. He was like kicked out of the...
He saw Kazuma's dad coming out of the grave and was like, holy fuck, a dead body, and then got, like, shamed to shit for it. So he lost all of his rep and couldn't continue being an inventor.
Yeah, now you could argue that's what you get for being a gravedigger, but I mean,
I guess, but man,
but no, I get what you mean.
Students gotta pay for grad school.
Yeah.
This is on the government. This is the government's fault for making grade school so fucking expensive.
Grade school, wow. Yeah. I think it's called primary.
Grad school.
Oh, okay. Okay, I thought you were talking about elementary school. I was going to say, no, it's primary school.
Primary school.
It's not elementary, my dear Watson. Anyway.
Elementary.
So,
Live
do we have
in
any...
England, they don't have an elementary school. They have
That's what I said. Yeah.
Yeah.
Somebody sent a letter to Sholmes about that.
Also,
that was from Iris.
I love, by the way, that you keep asking if there are any other villains, because you know if I get started, I'm never going to stop, and this podcast is going to go for another hour.
Well, that's why I want to get to it, because we're running low on time here.
Yeah, I'll keep it.
There were a lot of villains in Chronicles, because most of the characters were very gray. They were kind of in that gray area.
Oh, yeah. I'm gonna rush through my opinions of Dahlia versus Garan, because I have to point out they're the only two actual female big bads. They both appeared in the third game, and they both have a sister that is arguably better than them. And that's where the fucking similarities stop, because Dahlia has so much more to add. Dahlia, from the very first case, you know she's a bad guy. You learn from her aloof nature, like, okay, yeah, she's bad. And you learn how she gets arrested before you learn the one thing she almost got away with Terry Falls. So right away, her presence is extremely spoken. Meanwhile, we learn everything that Garan got away with, like, after the fact, like, years, literal, like, decades after, and I'm like, okay, who fucking cares? It's been 20 years. If you haven't overthrown Garan by now, I don't fucking give a shit. So, like, you know, that's one thing with Garan.
Yeah, and we don't know much.
Oh, sorry, go
we don't know much about her childhood either. It's just a sister who can channel spirits and she can't, and that's
the other thing. Oh my gosh, is the channel spirits thing. The channeling spirits thing that both Dahlia and Garan go through is that it's very explicitly stated that Dahlia and Iris went through some serious amounts of abuse because of the fact that they couldn't channel things, and Morgan was desperate to get someone who was better than Mia or Maya. And I genuinely think that that's a really good way to make Dahlia at least somewhat, like, not like, you know, redeemed, not at all, but like at least somewhat sympathetic, because you're looking at her and you're like, okay, maybe it wouldn't have turned out like this if both your parents weren't complete bitches.
That's kind of how Iris is.
Exactly.
Feeling sorry for her.
But Garan has this awful thing of, just because she can't channel spirits, instead of, you know, letting her sister do the shit, she's like, I'm gonna make up this giant masquerade, and somehow it's not gonna be found for 20 years, and then when it is found out, I'm gonna put up this big thing as if I have never tried to channel a spirit before, and, you know, I'm gonna have everyone turn against me because I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. And it's like,
she basically goes insane by the end.
Yeah, I'm like, oh my god, you're fucking, like with Dahlia, when she was defeated, it felt satisfying and sad, because there was this example of a character who was a victim of circumstance. Whereas Garan, I was like, okay, just get it over with. I don't care about your fucking breakdown.
Not to mention that with Garan, like, I think most of her problem is a character problem more than a villainy problem, because we do not know much about her. We don't know
anything.
Exactly. Like, all we know is that she's supposed to be some sort of queen figurehead, and that's about it. And it's like, maybe it's been better if she stayed that way, not as a villain, but just as a figurehead queen or something. And, you know, and it's kind of like, okay. And, you know, as far as, like, you know, being a good female villain with, like, with something similar, like a sister or something, then yeah, Dahlia is a perfect example of how to do it. But as far as, like, being an authority figure and being this amount of threat and presence, Lord Strongheart did it much better.
Oh, absolutely. The thing with Dahlia, and I have to say this now, is we learn about her entire life, basically. We learn from how she was abused at a small age, how she started her rap sheet at 14, which is like, damn, girl, wait till puberty. We learn that she murdered her half-sister out of paranoia. We learn, like, everything she does is very meticulous, and she learned how to do this because she was abused. The world didn't show her love, so why would she show it love back? And that's where Iris is different, because Iris was shown love by Bikini, and that's kind of what saved her life. Meanwhile, with Garan, they are literally fucking royals. The only difference is that Garan couldn't channel spirits, and even then, she would still have the pampered life of a royal. She's the sister. She doesn't have to have control. And, worst case scenario, she could have been the puppet master, telling her sister what to do while her sister's on the throne. That would have been fucking awesome!
Yeah, not to mention that even before she became queen, like, she was the minister of justice. It's like, so what? Like, did she not have more power? Did she not have power or influence over her sister? She didn't have to, like, go so far as to, like, burn the house down and then, you know, frame her husband for murder. I mean, she could have just manipulated the both of them.
And then she outlawed defense attorneys. I will never get over that. Oh my god. Neither. Imagine outlawing an entire profession because you want to be queen. Like, Jesus Christ, Garan.
Also to carry on the charade that a defense lawyer murdered the queen.
Oh, she's such a bad character, and I just, it makes me so sad that there are so many similarities that you have, like, just, you know, just,
if I may...
You know, as far as, like, you know, outlawing defense attorneys, like, they didn't do this. They actually didn't do this in this game, but I feel like that the Professor Layton crossover, you know, executed the idea of what it would be like if there were no defense attorneys better, in my opinion.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I'm sorry for being Mr. Counter-Argument all the time.
Oh, no problem.
The idea that Garon decided to try to murder her sister instead of just trying to influence her. Yeah, you have to wonder how close they were, but just, you know, maybe she didn't want to take. I mean, I don't know what I would do, but maybe she was just thinking, I don't want to take any risks. And even she could betray me, so
I guess that's fair.
We'll just do this the easy way.
That makes sense. I guess it's just in my head, I'm like, you went through such an elaborate ruse that, like, the more elaborate a ruse gets, the easier it is to pull apart because it gets so elaborate.
Yeah, so lies beget more lies. Exactly. And now I'm thinking now I'm starting to think like an evil villain. So thanks a bunch, you guys.
You're welcome.
Well, well, I also want to point out this. With Dahlia Hawthorne and her reason for murdering her stepsister it made sense because there was a motivation because Valerie was going to, you know, tell Terry Falls everything and the truth of everything that happened. Not to mention that she was in charge of the police force. Whereas Dahlia was in charge of nothing. And so, yes, she did have a much greater motivation. Whereas you have Garan, who does not have as great of a motivation for why she killed her sister. It's like, okay, she killed her sister to be queen, but it's like, yeah, but she's the minister of justice. And
she already has power. She's already a royal. She has no reason to do what she does. It drives me crazy.
Her motivation is politics.
And not to mention, like, the fact that it's very clear that Amara does love her sister a lot. You don't think that Garan doesn't see that and maybe could look at that and say, hey, I could maybe take advantage of this, kind of like what Dahlia did with Iris.
I was literally about to say they could have done that again, but no, apparently they decided that stupidity was better.
So she decided to do it the easy way.
Garan is definitely what not to do when creating an Ace Attorney villain. She is the pinnacle of bad, because the entire time that she is the villain, I'm like, what the fuck? And when she is beaten, I don't get satisfied. I'm like, finally, it's over. Yeah. You know, that sucks.
It's kind of neat to turn the whole army against her.
I guess.
Her husband even more so. Like, Inga, I would say, is even more, because I know even less about him or why he...
Yeah, I was going to say, I don't even remember that guy.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, that's basically like how bad he was. Is that he's so bad that he's forgettable. Like, you don't even know why he's a villain or what he's doing other than, like, just, stamping some policies you don't even know what they are, and and then kidnapping Maya, I guess, so that she could, like, spirit channel Holy Mother, and I guess gain her powers, because even though they're not really sure if that's even possible. It's like,
his motive was religion, partly.
and it's like, okay, so you want to gain the powers of Holy Mother, and yet no one is going to question how you're able to get it, even though you are born with an XY chromosome. Yeah, good luck with that. What are you going to do? Wear a wig and get yourself some boob surgery?
Top surgery.
Yeah, just like get yourself.
No,
just
but
get yourself.
The whole game is just ass, so much ass, and I feel bad because so many people like it. I can't wait. I've said this before, and I'll say it again. I think the DLC is confirmed to come free with the trilogy that's coming out. I'm gonna play Spirit of Justice on stream.
Oh boy!
And I've made a promise. I'm gonna go into the Time Traveler. I'm gonna go into Time Traveler.
Yes.
I'm gonna go into that and detach it from Spirit of Justice because I've heard that it's super good, and I don't want to have my my problems with Spirit of Justice to ruin that, because I do want to like it.
And I will say this much: the villain in that one is pretty satisfying.
I'm glad. So I guess we can wrap up because we've been at it for 2.5, not 2.5, but 2.25 hours.
I'm surprised I stayed with it this long, to be honest.
Me too.
That's even later where you live.
I'm gonna take I might not take a nap. I'm actually kind of awake now. I might stream again later tonight.
Oh my gosh.
Although, actually, no, it's midnight. My roommates are going to want to go to sleep. But I will stream again sometime, doing some Stardew or some RPG Maker or something. You can catch these two on Ask Ace Attorney or I'm nobodyyouKnow.tumblr.com or whatever. Next, if I'm doing my math right, if we do try to aim this for the Thursday, the first Thursday of November is the 2nd. Ooh, that might not actually work because that's the day after my brother's birthday.
Oh,
we'll figure something out.
Yeah.
Actually, I probably will show up. I just don't. That's my reason if I don't, but I probably will.
Family comes first.
Not in my family. I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
You said that to me one time.
But yeah, no, I'm down for that. We might have to discuss what we're talking about, but other than that, it's pretty freaking good.
Yeah, and if anybody wants to suggest a discussion topic, that'd be cool.
Yeah.
Anybody who's watching, just a thought.
So yeah, next podcast will be on the 2nd, and I don't know if I'll be streaming again until then, but until then, bye.
Bye.
Bye.